back to another episode of All About Scout. Hey guys, it's been a bit. I have been super excited to talk to you about the 24 October Scout Motors reveal, and we're ready to talk about it. So here we go. Nonetheless, I was super impressed with the reveal event from start to finish. I thought it was just the right thing for the brand. It was casual, it was outdoorsy, the weather was perfect. They invited the right people that were, true to the brand, and the reveal after, much anticipation was everything I thought it was going to be and more. And I have to say, I'm pretty excited that I called a couple of the things, given how little information was out there. So for me, that was kind of fun to see. There definitely was an outdoor aesthetic for the launch. It was a beautiful backdrop. It was simple, it was understated, it was unique. And man, do I love that Scout logo. When they did, get going, I thought Scott, as a leader of the company, did a great job sort of emceeing the event. And I think the messaging that the world needs more scouts, which we saw before the reveal, we saw that throughout before things kicked off. I love the compass motif. And, Scout moving to what they call the first battery electric vehicle for the brand. I thought they nailed it. And, that includes having original Scout designers in attendance. Scott Q had mentioned that they gave both love and tough love during the design process, which I think is important. And from, reading some of the reviews of the event, with so many Scout purists being there, they were impressed. And I think that really says something. Folks who hadn't seen the vehicle previously, who didn't know what they were getting, and were definitely not electric vehicle people per se. I think, Scout doing what they did, and, having an option in which there is a range extender, I think that was just a brilliant move on their part. And if you look at the orders, I think last time I checked, they had over 600 after the reveal event, and the majority of those are for the range extender version. I thought it was important that Scott mentioned that they're currently, on time and on target with the Blythewood, South Carolina plant. I was very interested to hear about that, since things have kind of shifted a little later into 2027, when we'll see this thing on the road. They're stressing community. And Scott mentioned that the brand will create over 4,000 jobs in Blythewood, South Carolina. And I think even more jobs outside of that, probably an additional 1,000 when you look at where Scout has other operations, to include in Northern Virginia, where they're hiring for more white collar executive positions. So I think it's going to be a, major exercise, and this is not a fly by night operation. It seems like they've probably learned from, Rivian. They've certainly seen Tesla's example. They're doing all the right things to bring this thing to fruition. And so, that's exciting to see. And they've remained true to, the brand aesthetic. And with that too, is the 80% cost is based off of, all those materials are sourced to the United States and the region. And I think that's really important when you're talking about Scout truly being an all-American, Americana brand. They are really bringing that home with, 80% of the materials used to build this vehicle are going to come from the United States. And you're talking about, over 4,000 jobs in America being created, most of those in Blythewood, South Carolina. I think it's exciting to see the launch of a truly new or renewed American car company. So he also made a point of saying that the digital purchase will take place in less than 10 minutes. But more importantly, they will not be commercializing any of your data. They will be transparent from beginning to end. And I think that's important because when you look at today's car purchases, whether they be, battery electric vehicles or, running off of dinosaur juice, um, car companies these days make more of their money off of selling your data than they do actually selling you a new vehicle. And I think that that really says something, that they're committing upfront to, privacy and not trying to monetize your personal data. And so saying that from the start, I think is important. Again, they also made a point of saying that they're staying true to the original legacy of Scout. They are looking at this as a connection machine, which I think is important because they really want to rally around the original community. They want to build a new community that's based off of that heritage. And you see that in the vehicle design. You see that in how they're representing the brand. And that includes some of the features which I'm really super excited about, to include open tops on these vehicles. I don't know why it's so hard, to get a electric vehicle these days, especially a SUV that has something more than a glass top, which is super hot, which is super heavy. I get it, you want aerodynamics, but when you want a truly outdoor vehicle, you want the ability to open up the top or pop windows and doors off, and I think you're getting that with the Scout. And what we saw at the reveal event, Scout said, was 85% true to form, if you will. So there's going to be some changes. I imagine they will probably tweak it to be just a little bit smaller, similar to what we saw with the original reveal of the Tesla Cybertruck. While that's still a monster of a vehicle, when they originally revealed it, I think it was like something like 2 to 6% larger than it is now. And I think we'll probably see that going forward, that there'll be sort of a little bit of a reduction in size, but it will still have that very outdoorsy, very original Scout aesthetic with the boxiness and the utilitarian nature of this vehicle. So we got to hear from some of the designers from Scout. Chris Benjamin was the lead designer. We had him kind of emceeing the vehicles rolling out as the Traveler and the Terra, and really making the Scout logo front and center, or I should say off center, on the actual vehicles. And I thought it looked absolutely great, and that they differentiated the two vehicles, to such a noticeable degree, and that like the tail end of the truck looks vastly different from the SUV. And they did that with the Scout logo being illuminated in the brake lights of both vehicles. And that they made a point of saying that both these vehicles are going to be multi-tool, that they have sort of an ICANN, companion-like aesthetic to them, that these are vehicles that they want, just like the original Scout, that you would almost pass down for generations. So they're building them that way. And I think the design that they're going for is, somewhat timeless, like the original Scout. And so super exciting to see on that front. As I predicted design-wise, I think what we saw and we heard the Scout team talk about was that the new Scout EVs, they both have a short front overhang. You have that boxy design. my original thought was that it had sort of a Dodge aesthetic to it, and before you tackled me on that, I think if you look at some of the new Dodge EV designs and some of the classic, you kind of see that. So I think what they're going for is true to the original boxy Scout design. But you also have a very Americana feel, and I think Dodge has that. And while I'm not a Dodge vehicle fan, and I don't think Scout would want to hear that I see some similarities to Dodge, I think it does have a muscular, American feel to it with broad shoulders and lots of ground clearance. Um, as they said, it's bold, but with sort of softened rectangles to it. Um, there are horizontal lines from headlight to handles, as they described, all the way to the tail lights, and I think that design aesthetic is really neat to see that they carry that all the way through. The Scout logo they've really leaned into with a signature piece of art aesthetic to it. I'm glad they're not messing with that, and they're making that sort of front and center. And we even see it in some of their in their store with some of their accessories and clothing, and it looks great. I think it's totally timeless, and they haven't messed with it. So the rear mounted spare on the SUV, I thought looked great and super off-roady, and I think that got people excited. I think the taillights looked great. Originally, I was a little lukewarm on the front headlights, but I've come around on that front. Some have said that it looks Rivian-like. I disagree. I really do think that it looks original to Scout, and that they're not taking on too many ideas from others. And while I still feel it has a little bit of that Dodge muscularness, I think that just sort of again speaks to the Americanness of this vehicle. It makes no apologies about what it's trying to be, and who it's really for. So, certainly a nod to the Scout 80 in the design of both vehicles, especially in the SUV. And the bed of the Terra is angled up. I thought that looked great. I was right on the skid plates and off-center branding. In this is, I've put a couple images forward. That we're trying to imagine what the Scout might look like. I don't think I was too far off, in that degree. So that was kind of fun to see. They've got the tow hooks up front, the skid plates, and tie downs. I thought that looked, great. The grab handles on the back of the truck. Everything has a function, and it's not just aesthetics. So really, really looks great, and just ready for action. Which I think that's what they really want to demonstrate through the vehicle. Um, so I think they called it, that the screens inside the vehicle have a clean brow. And so I think there's great visibility, and I called it, and that there was going to be more, buttons and touchscreens. As some others may have mentioned, I was hopeful that there was going to be more of a hybrid instrument cluster in front of the steering wheel. The steering wheel is very Scout-esque in that it's large. It's larger than I thought it would be. I imagine that might change going forward, but I thought everything looked great and somewhat Rivian-like, but I think that's a good thing. I do not like how Tesla has a screen, one single screen, and it is sort of distracting, and it is above the brow of the dash. With the Scouts, everything is sort of tucked in and neat and clean. Buttons where and when you want them. And I thought it looked great, and that it'll age well. Additionally, you have in addition to the buttons, and not just screens, you have a dedicated design of functionality everywhere. Like there's storage, there's room to move. I called it on that there was going to be a bench seating option in both, which I think is super fun. And I do think that there will be a significant portion of orders that go that direction. To again leaning into this, they want it to be a community vehicle, a very family feel. That you could have three sitting up front in close proximity, and I think it's great. I think it's really going to work for them, and I think it's there's just function everywhere. It's not just form. What else? So I think we totally expected that they were going to make the manual compass in the headliner sort of front and center, and while I think that that's a little bit kitschy, I don't know how often that will be leveraged. It definitely is unique and certainly representative of their outdoor aesthetic branding, and that could have very easily been some sort of digital compass, but they made a point of making that, old school. The bench seat option, as I said, is awesome. It looks great, and I think it's not going to really take away from any of the functionality inside the vehicle. The plaid pattern in the seating, I called that. There it was. I think that looks great, and the way they've executed that is awesome. I think the warm interior lighting, as they described, would be like a campfire. I think that's just brilliant. And while that's not terribly exciting, I think it is a differentiator. I mean, they're really leaning into that outdoor aesthetic. Um, they call it Heritage Reimagined, and we see that in the different color schemes they presented. The two that they put forward, looked great. One sort of the burnt amber on the SUV, and then one that looked a little bit more like gunmetal gray on the truck. I thought that was awesome. I think the fact that they used sort of reclaimed materials, no surprise there, but they went for more warm woods on the dash, and really wanting to make the community experience, not just the customer experience, really neat by describing the software as their community UX. And so I think they're really wanting to make sure that that Scout community doesn't die, for lack of a better description, with these EVs. That they want you to be able to easily find other Scout owners. They want you to be able to really enjoy the vehicle and all its functionality, making it simple and clean, and designed exactly for what Scouts always were meant to do. So off-roading, use around the farm, but also a daily commuter, which I think is going to be super cool. So Scott Q talked about Scout's humble beginnings, and that has also remained true with this Scout EV relaunch. And I think that's super cool because it really does feel like a startup. And while that's scary because most EV startups fail, I'm heartened by the fact that there is, Volkswagen backing in this vehicle, and I think the community is, definitely behind this vehicle. And the reviews that I've seen online beyond my own have been very positive. And so, the fact that the CEO Scott was working out of a WeWork for quite some time, and that lead designer Chris out of his own basement. I like that. The best startups began with humble beginnings and people putting everything into them and really believing in them, from thought to finish. So this is, as they said, it's a no joke proper Scout, and I think we see that. I think the Traveler having 7,000 pounds of towing is probably more than most people need, but it's obviously going to have a capable motor, and that 10,000 pounds of towing capacity on the Terra pickup truck. They're not messing around. And while they mentioned the 3.5 seconds to 60, I don't really think that resonates much with the true to form Scout community. It is nice to know that it's going to have a capable motor and battery setup in it. But if they told me that it was going to be 0 to 60 in 5 seconds or 6 seconds, that's still plenty quick. And I care more about the ride comfort and the ability to adjust the height of the vehicle, and that you don't have to worry about driving it off-road or on-road. And I think there'll be options on tires and that sort of thing. And they confirmed what I was predicting, that at launch, the accessories were going to be in full swing. So you can truly customize a Scout and make it your own, from paint colors to spare tire on the back, which will be an option, to interior colors and patterns and materials and all that kind of stuff. I mean, these things are going to be super customizable, to include graphics, which we don't even see on many EVs these days. I think the front and rear mechanical differentials on that is really going to speak to the outdoor off-roading community. On at least on the reveal vehicles, they have 35-inch tires. I think we'll probably see that as an option, and more of a competitor to the Bronco, if you will, with different options, on-road tires versus off-road tires, and more luxury version versus stripped down version. I think it's really going to be cool to see. Real door handles on this thing. That is something that I'm happy to see. One less mechanical part that's not going to fail. They said that Scouts are about doing things ourselves, and so even down to the door handles not presenting themselves to us, like we're perfectly capable of opening a door ourselves. Well, at least some of us are. And the fact that they called it a tool for today, it's all about utility. You've got a larger truck bed in the Terra than you do in the Rivian R1T, 5.5 feet. And you've got, I believe, 800 volt architecture on this vehicle. So like it's going to be quick charging and, more than capable. So they've done some learning from, I think, Rivian and Tesla on that front. The slide out seating in the front, I think, is awesome. And while they're not the first to go that direction, we see it with Lucid's upcoming Gravity SUV. I think the two demographics, if you will, for Scout versus the Gravity are going to be vastly different. The folks that are buying the Gravity are probably going to be attending a polo match versus the folks that are buying the Scout are going to more likely be taking it camping and off-roading. And so I love seeing different options for leveraging a frunk. And then of course in the SUV, the Traveler, the fact that they have a trunk that has a pop-up glass and fold-down tailgate. Scott mentioned that this is so much more costly, but again, they're really staying true to form to their the Scout community, and I think people are just going to love that. I know I'm excited about it. And it's another reason why I put down a reservation for one of these. And so I'm excited to see this thing, and I really want it to come to fruition. Uh, I think they said all Scouts would be standard with the NACS charging infrastructure. And I think more importantly that it has bi-directional charging. So I think if you're going for an outdoor brand and an outdoor aesthetic, you need to have bi-directional charging. So I'm glad they're doing that. That's not something that Tesla does. Tesla's avoided that. So if you want bi-directional charging and you want an outdoor vehicle, we're definitely getting that with the Scout. Of course, we're going to have remote updates and diagnostics, etc. I thought it was really interesting, and I know it's ticked off the Volkswagen dealers, but going back to how quick and easy it will be to order this vehicle, that's all going to be online, and it's going to be delivered to your door, or it's going to be similar to others have done. And I'm wary of mentioning Fisker, but that you're going to be able to pick it up somewhere and not have to deal with slimy car dealerships. So the all accessories available at launch, I think that's exciting, and I think that's a differentiator from Tesla. If you go and order a Tesla, really your only options are color, a trailer, and charger and floor mats. And then if you want to do roof racks and all that kind of stuff, you've got to wait and do that stuff later. The fact that you can do that and fully customize your vehicle from the beginning, I think is exciting. So what you get is truly yours and different from what everybody else has. I thought it was cool that Scott referred to this as a connection machine, that the Scouts are for hanging out, and we see that with the frunk with a seating option, and we see that with the split tailgate. The open air cabana top, I think, is super cool and old school, and easy to use. I just think that is awesome. And while that'll certainly be an option, I think that's going to be one that's totally worth it, and probably what most people spec theirs with. And then, we had the reveal, the sort of there one more thing moment, which we were expecting, and I called, the Harvester, the Harvester hybrid, which has a range extender on it, which will take this thing to 500 miles. So that is way more than probably most people will need, and to include the outdoor enthusiast community that truly take these vehicles off-road. If anybody's really done their research, electric vehicles off-road do quite well because they're not driving very fast, and the regen works really well with all the braking you have to do when you're off-roading. But the fact that you get a range extender that, you could just, the things you could do with this with 500-mile range, and I think that we see that that really spoke to the the Scout community and those that are going and ordering this vehicle. Most of the orders were for the range extender, the utility that gives you. So that was exciting to see. And while the Harvester will have a smaller battery, I think it's awesome that they designed this without sacrificing any of the utility. So you still get the frunk, you still get the the fold down rear hatch. You still get all the same interior room. It's just brilliantly done. And I thought that, that was just really, really exciting. And so they've, as they said, they've future-proofed the vehicle, and that, range extender certainly does that. And being able to do the remote diagnostics and software updates or whatever. I mean, this thing is going to be so easy to use, and it looks like it could take a tank round. So they opened up the reservations right after the reveal event. I certainly went in and reserved one myself. I went for the Traveler SUV, and truth be told, I went for the full electric versus the Harvester. But I love the fact that we can change that reservation later very easily, and you can already do that now. And so if they decided that, like, hey, we're only going to manufacture Harvesters first, I wouldn't be upset about that, and I might go that direction. But I really think that by the time 2027 rolls around, the battery tech will be that much better. And, they're already talking about the vehicle having more than 300 miles of range. I'm sure it'll be closer to 350, depending on how you spec it. I'm totally fine with that. I don't need 500 miles of range, but the fact that if I change my mind on that front, that'll be easy to do. Awesome. So, I also thought it was cool that Scott, gave a huge thank you to the Scout community, his team, and the fact that they are doing this, designing a vehicle for 2027 with a starting price under $60,000. I think that's huge in the EV world. And while I would have loved to have seen it, start under $50,000, I think that's kind of the sweet spot. I think people are willing to pay more for the opportunity to really personalize these vehicles, far more than you can do with any EV on the road today or that's coming between now and 2028. So again, I reserved one. I'm going to continue to share that journey with all of you as things move forward. I think it's going to be really exciting to see how this all plays out. I'm still fascinated by this partnership with Rivian because, they have the R2 coming out, which, truth be told, I also have a reservation for. Because I think it's going to be a foot race between, a really exciting time between 2025 and 2027 with new vehicles coming out. You have the Model Y Juniper, which will come next year, and we'll have some updates and some improvements on utility and range and that sort of thing. And then I think you have the exciting Gravity that's coming in 2025 as well. And while that's aimed at a different demographic, I still think that you'll see those prices come down, and that will be exciting to see how that goes, and whether that's really the game changer for the Lucid brand. Before they get to more affordable vehicles, which are on the horizon. And then, of course, you have the Rivian R2, which I think is an awesome vehicle. And I truly feel that, like, if Rivian wants to survive, they're going to have to do everything they can to get the R2 out sooner, especially since I think it's the Scout is going to compete heavily with the Rivian in terms of the outdoor enthusiast community. So that seeing that political race, if you will be interesting. As Rivian shares their electrical architecture and software with Scout. How are these two vehicles going to truly differentiate from each other? And I do think that what we're going to see is that, and forgive me for simplifying this, but I do think that the Scout has more of a blue collar work truck, off-roader, that people aren't going to be worried about getting these things, scratched up, certainly given the much lower price point than the Rivians, versus the Rivian more, again, sort of family hauler, aesthetic to their SUV. Now, I think the R1T, is an exciting vehicle, and I'm a big fan of it, and it's on my list of, possible future vehicles, I do think that the prices have to come down significantly. I know they're trying to work towards that, but they're going to have to work harder if they truly don't want to lose market share to the Scout. But anyway, as things move forward, I am super excited to bring you all the news, it's exciting times for All About Scout. And if you have news, if you have also ordered a Scout and you're excited about it, I'd love to hear about what in particular you're excited about. And anyway, keep the comments and questions coming, and we'll see what between now and 2027 brings.